Please hang up and try again.
Remember back in the old days, if you wanted to buy a black book, Borders was the place to go because they had that huge African American section? Well, I had no idea that section was creating some controversy. Well, wouldn't you know it, on the blog site Stuff Black People Don't Like, back in April 18th, 2011, they wrote a post called, "What Borders Bookstores Collapse Mean to the Black Community." The blog post went something like this. Everything in life has a racial angle, and the closing of Borders bookstores nationwide is no exception. The bookstore that was attacked in the 1999 issue of Mother Jones for putting all books by black authors in an African American section is now lamented for closing and the irreparable damage this will cause to struggling black writers who saw 30% of their overall sales from Borders book segregating practices. Most Borders across the country have pretty large African American sections, so I'm concerned about the future growth of African American titles, authors, books, etc., says bookshop owner Michelle Lewis. She goes on to say that roughly 30% of the total amount of book sales for African American authors come from Borders, so a number of our authors will no longer get publishing contracts. There are only about 25% of African American bookstores across the country that were in business 10 to 15 years ago still open today. Black writers are grieving over the failure of Borders, primarily because it was one of the only brick-and-mortar venues that grouped books targeted at the black community together, making it easy for black people to find and everyone else to avoid. What will people do without Borders? As we learned from Finding Forrester, the next great American novelist is going to be a black person. Sadly, most black fiction is ignored by white readers. Our guess is that ghetto, hip-hop, and urban fiction isn't jiving with the white audiences, who consist of easily 85 to 90% of the book-buying population. You can just walk into a Barnes & Noble and count the minorities you see. Now those meandering around aimlessly for warmth don't count. Even bigwigs like Jesse Jackson Jr. said, "Why do you need to go to Borders anymore? Why do you need to go to Barnes & Noble? Just buy an iPad and download your book. Download your newspaper. Download your magazine," the congressman said. Everything in life has a racial angle. The closing of Borders is no exception. Where does black literature go with the loss of one of the biggest sellers of books by black authors? The fact that some bookstores segregate books by the race of the author makes literature that one group desires easier to locate. Conversely, it makes it incredibly easy to pass over unwanted tripe. The regrettable failure of Borders means that another venue for black writers must be located that can carry the heavy burden of filling 1/3 of their sales. What really needs to be stated is this: ghetto culture is being rejected by most people. Any black writer capable of putting together a cogent sentence is pushed beyond his abilities in the name of diversity. Black writers have made no footprint in literature unless said black writer is pushed for merely being a black writer. So few black writers have made an impact with their writing and literature, save for those who write about racism, that no one is bothered to read their work unless forced in some literary class in college or high school. An enterprising individual could work to help fill the void that Borders bankruptcy presents to black authors. Our suggestion is someone creates a WordPress or Blogspot website and recruit top writers of black literature and work to convince black readers to upgrade to Kindles, iPads, or Nooks. The price might seem steep, but digital books are much cheaper than the Deadwood varieties and much easier to transport on an e-reader. Our other suggestion is to write about something that appeals to people other than the blacks. Black writers who rely on black readership alone have a small audience. It might seem like a natural market, but this strategy impedes growth. Well, that's what they're saying on the blog site Stuff Black People Don't Like. I don't know what you think about it, but it does raise a few eyebrows.